Um, Good afternoon, everyone. You're welcome to our session today. This is a live session by Oppia, and it is titled Empowering Underserved Communities Through Digital Literacy and Interactive Learning. I'm Munachimso Eze, and I'm your host for today. And joining me here today are two incredible individuals who bring their passion and expertise to this table. Yes, so before we continue, I would like to give the stage to our speakers, our guest speakers, so they can introduce themselves and, yeah, please tell us about yourselves. Patience, you can go first.
Okay, good day everyone. My name is Patience Bassey. I'm a front-end developer and a STEM educator. And basically, I am more interested, in empowering our future leaders in the aspect of tech. So I use coding to bring my ideas or to create creativity, to impact creativity in kids. So basically that's what I do.
Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Moses Amama. I'm a senior product designer with Thoughtbot Inc. And I, with my design experiences, I also have a lot of interest in designing learning experiences and also just figuring out how we can deliver learning in a more efficient manner in different places, regardless of where they are.
Okay. Thank you very much, Patience and Moses. So to reiterate what our speaker said, they are both very passionate about reaching underserved communities. Not just underserved communities, yes, but education first of all, and making sure that these opportunities are available to anyone, anytime, wherever they are, wherever they are from. Right now, I would like to give an overview of Oppia's mission. So, what is Oppia for those who are joining and for those who don't know what Oppia is? Oppia is a free learning platform, an interactive learning platform that is free for kids. And Oppia has a unique approach of using interactive lessons. You know, the stories, it has story based lessons, and the aim is to reach children in an interactive manner because we know that these days children they get lot of information from school, from wherever they are. And we notice that children these days they don't really have the should say attention span, or there's a lot going on, and we all know that even as human beings, we're all visual beings, we are visual, and we understand that it is easier to retain things that we can see and interact with. So with that approach, Oppia aims to reach as many students, as many learners as possible. And yeah, so this is, yeah, and you also know that another point I want to make is for underserved communities, especially because I mean this life is about how to empower on the underserved communities. We know that they have very high dropout rates. You understand? So for them, and that's because for them they lacked motivation. There aren't enough facilities and all of them to reach them individually and to appeal to their personal abilities. A lot of them don't even know what they are capable of, in fact. But yes, that is why OPI is available. So I would like to also ask Patience, as a STEP educator, like you said, like you rightly said, you understand how important it is to empower children, not just children, but people. But you told me specifically for children. So I understand that you have the passion to reach children because, like you said, like we all know, children are the leaders of tomorrow. Like we all know that, right? And you know the importance of empowering them with these tools. And even me as an individual, if I had the opportunity, I had that children. I know that children these days are into coding from as young as 5 years old, 6, 7. They've already started coding. So, from the perspective of a STEM educator, why do you think And yes, considering the your outreach, trying to reach all this, to reach children and reach people, for them to try to gain more insights into STEM related courses and careers and all of that. So from your perspective, why is can you just briefly tell us why digital literacy is important? Why digital literacy is important? And yeah, just let me know, just for a brief should I say overview of what you actually do, what you've done.
Okay. So first of all, I just want to iterate that before digital literacy was like it was a luxury. All right. So if you have access to this, you were very very privileged. So, but right now in today's world, in especially in our economy today, it's now should I say is a necessity for kids now to have these skills or to be educated, all right, to have digital literacy, because now what does it do to them in our today's world? What is needed in the workplace is different from what we had before. All right. So before it was just like the industrial age where you're given instructions and you just focus on that instruction, or you focus on the particular task that you are meant to do. But in our today's world, okay. So I don't know. Can you hear me now, Moses?
Yes, oh, we can hear you. I could hear you.
Okay, he dropped a message that he couldn't hear me. I just wanted to confirm. Sorry.
Okay.
All right. So like as I was saying, in today's world, we need some skills for you to be able to succeed. So we've passed that industrial age where you're given a task and you just focus on that task. Now with digital literacy, it creates this creativity in kids, all right? So if they should start early, now they can now be able to think, to create, to work with other people, collaborate with others, and then become successful, create the change that we need in our world. So now we have passed that age where you just sit in a classroom, a teacher is teaching, that passive learning basically, where a teacher will just stand in class, but in the class and just teach, keep talking and talking and talking. But now with digital literacy, we now have to create this interactive learning where you are seeing what is happening. The teacher is explaining and it's giving you, real life scenarios where you can relate, something that you can relate, something that you can see. These people or these kids are not afraid to try out things. So with the skills now, they with digital literacy and interactive learning, they can now see what is happening. They can now it boosts their creativity, it boosts their confidence, and then they are able to understand some concepts. I'm very sure between the three of us, or yes, everybody that is joining us now, there are some concepts that we were taught in school that even today you don't seem to understand how it applies to our lives right now. But with digital literacy and then with this interactive learning, you can see, you can apply. For example, you have a wood. What do you use a wood for? You can use a wood to make a seat, a table, or stuff. How do you do this? You just cut them into, first of all, you have a plank, you have some straight wood where you have to connect. Sometimes you just try hands-on experience, and then it boosts these children's creativity. You don't only teach them, they're able to see, visualize these things. So that's digital literacy is actually very very important in our world today.
Thank you very much for that, Patience, for reminding us that the importance of digital literacy, right? And how how it was before time. We're used to. I mean, it's not even that far. It's not that far off, to be honest. Because I remember when I was in my secondary school, we just have a teacher that will come to the class, and sometimes she doesn't even write, or they don't write on the board, and they just dictate. Okay, get out your notes, write. and write this and write that. And I did struggle. I struggled quite a lot in secondary school, and even down to, or even up to my years in the tertiary institution. So yes, digital literacy is really important. And right now we are in the age of technology, a digital age, and we have to advance. We need to help these children advance. So yes, this is something that we all should try to pioneer, no matter how small we think our efforts are. It's important to try to start to impact this digital literacy in kids. So, Mr. Moses, can you please give us an overview of your what you your opinions or your findings, so to speak, and just let us know what you think. Thank you.
Thank you very much. First of all, like Patience rightly has like mentioned and like you contributed, it's super important to be able to first of all carry learners along when teaching. And when we talk about carrying learners along when teaching, we have a classroom of, say, in a typical maybe secondary or primary school, you probably have a classroom of like 40 pupils or students. Um, each of these 40 students have different ways that they learn. And so, first of all, approaching teaching with a one size fits all approach creates a situation where you're leaving a number of people behind. For instance, you mentioned about how you have a situation where a teacher is dictating and everyone else is expected to follow along. You know, some students, some people would struggle with following along with just abstract instruction, sort of, with the teacher just sort of like reeling out notes abstractly. It would be very difficult for them to understand. Why? Because they work better with a combination of when they're learning with through an audiovisual method. So they need to be able to see something, right, before they can sort of like follow along. And with the advancements in technology that we have, especially in learning experiences, it's one of the advantages that it gives us, where you can have you can have like some sort of medium where while the teacher is explaining, the students would be able to see visually what they are explaining or what they are the notes they are literally giving, and that would be able to aid learning. One example that comes to my mind way back while I was in secondary school was when I think my biology teacher was trying to explain the skeletal system or something. And it was a little bit difficult for me to like grasp. But in the science lab, there was sort of like this figure of a skeletal system there. And the moment, the teacher brought it into the class and was explaining and was like, okay, so when you look at this part of the body is called this part of the skeletal system is called this, it was instant. It stuck in my mind. And yeah, that's just one example of how this kind of combinations would be able to sort of like help us carry all the learners in our classrooms along while teaching.
Thank you so much, Mr. Moses. That was very, very informative and interesting. I'm glad, in fact, I'm glad you mentioned that because I'm sure a lot of people would be able to relate to that. There are so many things that we've learned while we were growing up, and even up to this point, that if you're not engaged in that learning process, it will be hard for it to stick. It will hardly stick to your memory and your mind. And that is also one of the importance of interactive learning. An approach where students, you're able to say something to them and they can see, they can visualize it. You understand, and especially with a platform like Oppia, where the stories there are like are real life are life based. Let me put it that way. You understand? There are things that happen in real life, things that they can relate to. Let me just put it that way. Like we have a story where a boy he goes to an arcade to play games and he gets the scores. And okay, when you go to the arcade and you give you like a large number, and you are not able to, he wasn't able to read out the number. You understand? There are times when I show this to my kids, I'm like, oh yes, he went to play games. And sometimes even me, when I go to play games, or when I play games, I can only see the figures. I can't really pronounce it. I don't know how, and you can see how they relate. Yesterday, I had a speaker come up and she said that she has her young child. She's about 5 years, and she mentioned that there's a particular lesson as well where I think it was about division, yes, and she told the story. According to the story, it's you have a slice, you have a pizza, and then you have different slices of pizza. If you give this person this slice and you divide it among three people, how many would you have left? Something like that, in the lines of that. So she said that when she went out with her family the next week or sometime later, and they had pizza, and the child was like, "Oh yes, mommy." If I, she started to relate, so you can tell that actually stuck with the child. You can tell that it stuck with the child. So that is why interactive learning is very, very important. And with digital literacy, like you both have said, right now we are evolving. Things are evolving. Digital literacy is important. You will hardly find yourself in any industry where digital literacy is not a necessary skill, right? Yes. So that engaging the engagement is very, very important. And yes. So I would like to ask each of you, because I want us to kind of tie should I say areas of expertise, like you as a STEM educator and you as a product designer. So I'll start from you, Bassey, like Patience Bassey, excuse me. Um as a STEM educator, what role do you think interactive learning, right? What role does it play in learning subjects like math and science, and how does it make it more accessible to students in underserved communities specifically? Now we are not now we'll move from, okay, yes, we know that interactive learning is important and digital literacy, right? But then, like you also said, patience, there's a particular group of people that have that easily access these tools, right? They have it, if they have it maybe because of privilege, or because of, it can be anything, and some are not as privileged, right? So, for students in underserved communities, how do you think this, especially because we also know that sometimes, because from my own experience, not even I'm speaking from personal experience now. Sometimes when I go to these communities, and I notice that even if they may be going to school, their level of on I would say their standards, the standards of learning for them is pretty poor. You understand? It's pretty poor. It's either they don't have access to it at all, or they're even going to school, but they are not getting the quality lessons that they need, right? So as a STEM educator, what role do you think interactive learning plays in making subjects like math, more accessible to students in underserved communities?
Okay. So, what role does interactive learning or what role does it play for underserved community? I would say like subjects like math, it's it makes them, or it's accessible to them, because if the teachers, all right, should I say creative, or maybe I went through the platform Oppia, and then I saw some should I say some lessons there that was interactive. Now imagine showing this to kids in this environment or in this community. What it does to them is that it opens their mind. All right, it opens their mind to possibilities. All right, now it gives them hope. They may not get to maybe use this every day or use it as they should, but it gives them this hope that, all right, they have this possibility of maybe the kind of life they should envision, and like that. And so like in platform like Oppia, I saw some arithmetics operations where they were saying someone had two plus this, and then you went now imagine a teacher is teaching this to a child and you're just doing the normal, you're writing on the board 2 plus 2, 2 plus 3 minus 4, or stuff like that, which may be very may be abstract to a child. But with this interactive learning, where they are seeing things that they can relate to. Okay, so for example, you're a teacher, you're teaching, maybe you now come with maybe some sticks or some stones or even some candies, all right, and then you're doing this to make that class interactive for them. You teach, you call them to come and also perform. That's what platform like Oppia does, all right. You see this thing, it creates interaction and it's stuck in your brain. So next time, if someone should ask you 2 plus 3, you will still remember, okay, on this platform where I was showed, there was 2 candy here or maybe 2 biscuits here, and this other person had 3. And then if you should join them together, it's going to give you this. So it creates things like mathematics. We have things like addition, subtraction. It makes this thing easy, all right? Even for you as a teacher, it reduces the workload for you. Okay, now take for example, you as a teacher, you come across this platform and then you go through it. It now create you will now be, should I say, it makes it creative for your class. One, your class will not be boring. Okay, some people are always scared of maths. On all these subjects, it's difficult, you can't see, it's very abstract, you don't really know what's going on. But then when you show them the possibility of what they can learn, when you show them, okay, this class can be fun, you interact with them, you create fun examples and skills where they can relate with. It's now one makes your class not to be dull. All right, your class will be fun, students will be looking up to your class. Okay, I'm going to take myself for example. Okay, yeah, when I was in school, I didn't have a platform like Oppia, but what my teacher usually does, and he still remains my favorite teacher. Anytime he's teaching us, all right, he comes with, sometimes he will come with cardboard to show us some concepts. Sometimes he will just cut some papers so that we can just try our hands out. So hands-on activity, and then visualization where the students can see. So visual examples helps. One, it will make your class to be, like I said, it will be interesting, it will be fun. And then this, you are now creating, you're giving these children hope, and then they are now see the possibility of having a better and a brighter future. So with technology, now, yes, they may have issues of accessing technology, but imagine they can access it as early as they could, and they access it as early as they could, and then they try their hands on. I bet you before these children get into adulthood, all right, from where they are coming from, and then they get to adulthood, it's going to be great, because what they will have in mind, the inventions or the creativity that they will have in mind will be amazing. So interactive learning, it cannot be overemphasized. It's really really important, and it's really really necessary for every children, especially now. I'm saying especially because if you can see the percentage of students in the underserved community, it's actually more than even the privileged ones. So if these people can have access to this, just imagine what the world will turn into. Just imagine how creative our world will turn into. So it's really really important.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Patience. That was very, very insightful. Um, Thank you for trying to explain to us, or for explaining to us why it is important to try to bridge the gaps in learning, especially for underserved communities that don't have the opportunity for this. You've explained how why that is important, but
And
so
also,
taking
okay, just sorry to cut you short. Also, what
okay,
it also does to them is that with what they are seeing, all right, and how they are interacting. First of all, in today's world, creativity is very important. So as they are seeing these things online, or as they're just seeing it being practical, they are meant to be, it forces them also to be creative. Now you will see children, maybe even after classes, they go out to play. They don't play the normal sand and this thing kind of play. They now try to do something that can even relate to what was taught in school, because of this learning that they have received. Okay, so now it forces them to be creative. They can now be innovators, because with creativity comes innovation. They will not be able to create something, innovate, and then with this now, subconsciously they are building the skills that are necessary in today's world, even without knowing. Because take for example, we now in our the world, maybe you're given a task, nobody is telling you what to do. You are to think about solutions on how to solve a particular problem. So with them now, unconsciously, okay, they are now forming these skills. So now tomorrow when they grow up and a task is given to them, or they see a problem, they don't wait to be told what to do. They simply think of solutions or what they need to do on how to solve this problem. So now they are just now developing these skills that will be needed in the future. So that is just it.
Thank you very much, Patience. Thank you. So I want to ask you something specific to you now as a STEM educator. And now for students in underserved areas, right? You know these people don't really have access to these things. What challenges have you seen them face before when it comes to learning these STEM subjects? You know, because it's you. I know you've spoken about underserved communities and reaching them, but I just want you to give us like examples of in your own experience the challenges that they have faced. You know, especially for children who don't really have access to yes to these
Okay, first of all,
platforms.
I would say language barriers. Okay, some students may not be very vast in English language, so you may have to struggle, all right, to make these concepts, or to make them understand this concept, especially in English. So I went through Oppia and I saw that I think they are trying to translate this in different languages, if I stand to be corrected. So
Yes, it has many.
I would say
Sorry.
number one is
Okay. Okay. No, I'm saying that Oppia offers multilingual support and even voice over. It even has
yes,
voice
I
over
saw that.
features.
Yes,
Yes. So even
yeah,
pidgin language, the
I
pidgin
saw that.
language that we
So
speak, pidgin language that we speak right now in Nigeria. I've taught students with pidgin before. I've taught students that don't even know how to speak English. They can't even they are like it's very difficult. It was very, very difficult to connect with them. But thankfully, all I had to do was turn on the pidgin language, and they were smiling like surprised that a platform like this that has all these pictures and videos and of this kind of quality is speaking Nigerian pidgin. That's what they were saying, in their language. I mean, someone told me, but that's how surprised they were. So that's just the beauty of the platform. And continue, please, patience.
yeah, so I saw that too when I went through the platform. So one of the challenges we face is the language barriers, and I'm very glad. I was very glad and impressed when I saw that feature on Oppia. And I will also say technology, the tools needed to teach. So, for example, in STEM, like I rightly said, I use coding to express these things to kids. They may not have access to these technologies, the computers and laptops that they need to access. So that's one of the challenges that we are really facing, because, take for example, you're going to maybe you're setting up a lab in some place, and then you need to reach out to more kids. You will need more tools, all right, for maybe each, or at least for some people to pair and use. So those are the challenges that we face. And then I'm just glad that little by little we are getting here, like if they use a platform like Oppia, when we have language, okay, multilingual language there, and then tools and technologies, or yeah, are available to them, it will really go a long way in touching more lives and creating impact in our society.
Thank you very much, Patience. That was very, very interesting. Even I am learning a lot right now. I'm gathering as much information as I can from you. So thank you very much. We know that one thing for underserved communities is the fact that the language barrier is one thing to have a very good platform. It's another thing for the platform to be accessible. You understand? So that's just it. So you can have a very good platform. You can have an awesome platform that is perfectly built, and the features are there and everything. But when it's not reaching um a particular audience, or your target audience, then what is now the point of all of that? So we know why this. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. um you also mentioned how Oppia, like an interactive platform like Oppia would is helping to bridge those gaps, like offering multilingual support, different languages, voice over. So even if you can't read, someone is reading out the stories to you. Someone is literally telling you a story, and you can follow because the pictures they're also very clear and easy to understand. Very, very easy to understand platform. So thank you very much, Patience. Mr. Moses, Miss Patience, Moses, please, I know that you're a product designer, a senior product designer at that, and you've also mentioned that you've worked with underserved communities and being a digital expert as well. I want you to explain to us, in simple terms, don't bring your you don't bring your because I had a speaker before and she was saying some things about UX, and I was looking like, okay, okay, well, thank you. We understand, and I don't understand, but thank you for those that can understand. Yeah, and, had to ask her to break it down for us. So as a product designer working with underserved communities, how important is accessibility from your own perspective when designing educational platforms like Oppia, for example? You've seen Oppia, you've used Oppia. Like, why do you think this accessibility when designing this kind of platform is important?
Yeah, thank you very much. So, in my experience with designing learning experiences, one of the key things that I look out for is accessibility. Um, and the reason for that is because when the design, especially learning experiences, when you create learning experiences without accessibility in mind, it's just like you're sort of like you're putting a red tape and putting a whole large number of people on the red line and saying you can't learn for whatever reason. And that's why it's important. For instance, something as something as little as designing learning experiences for people that are in communities that have poor internet can go a long way in either including people and helping people learn or excluding people from learning. Um, and typically, because of the uh, what I call it now, the concentration of most people who design learning experiences or who are responsible for coming up with these lessons and probably designing these products, you find them in areas more like urban areas where the internet connectivity is great, where power is great. So it's easy for me to maybe come up with a video lesson or something, and it works great on my computer. And I think, oh, when we take it to maybe this rural area in this community, it's easy for me to believe that it's still going to work that way. It's still going to work perfectly the way it has worked for me. And then you take it, and then because the platform or the lessons are buffering every 1 second or 2 seconds, you lose the learners and they are not able to learn. So something as little as that can either aid or impede learning experiences. Something else that the both of you have also touched on, which Oppia does really well, is the inclusion of voiceover super important, not just in designing learning experiences, in designing any platform at all. Because when you have, I know we've also spoken about like how audiovisual, um, putting together audiovisual materials is important for learning, but there are still people, when we talk about underserved communities, and like, yeah, we're not just probably talking about like rural areas. We're also talking about people that have one form of disability or the other. For instance, if you are probably deploying a platform like this in a school for the blind and you don't have voiceover, um, you see the challenges. They're going to find it difficult, like following along. Um, Same way if you're deploying it in a rural community where they are not very fluent or they don't even speak English, or most of the students don't know how to speak English. And you don't have this uh, translations, this room for translations into like local dialects and the rest of them. It's going to be a challenge for them to follow along. Not necessarily because the students are not able to learn. It's just a simple case of this learning is not being delivered to them in a way and a manner that they can follow along and understand. And it's one of the things I think I enjoy most about Oppia, because of that attempt, that taking that extra step to be able to include like this voiceovers and trying to localize learning. That's what I like to call it. Some of these things are just what it takes to be able to bring students, like some of these learners, and get them learning. Something else I also would want to touch on, and this comes largely from my experience researching how to deliver learning to rural and underserved communities. And Oppia is doing wonderfully well by making it digital and probably having video lessons and voiceovers, right? But that's also one way of delivering learning, by leaning into these digital devices. Personally, and this is something we're still researching, there are places where you can't deliver learning digitally or completely digitally um, at the moment. So if we focus only maybe on the digital medium, we may also be cutting off some other people in communities where it's difficult to get them a laptop, or it's even difficult for the students to continue learning when whoever the tutor or the learning coordinator is leaves the community with their laptop and with their devices. It's then difficult for the students to follow along with these lessons. So it also brings the question, how can we make learning in these communities continuous for these students, even without the presence of like super heavy digital devices, And if we're looking at delivering lessons solely with digital devices in most of these communities, um, it's going to be really capital intensive. It's going to be really intensive and maybe human capital intensive also. And that could easily create a situation where, organizations sort of like turn away from those communities. So personally, I would like to see more combinations between um, digital and not non-digital methods of learning, and just basically figuring out how we can deliver learning that way. But when it comes to digital experiences and interactive learning, I've really enjoyed what Oppia is doing, especially in making learning local and wanting being able to like carry the students along, even if they are fluent in English or not. I think it's super important.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That was very, very insightful. So for our listeners, I also want to say that, or just to add to what Moses has said, Mr. Moses has said. You see, the thing about Oppia too is Oppia is available on two different. It's available on the website. You have the website option, and then you have the app option. And Oppia has actually it's optimized to serve people areas that have very poor network. poor connectivity and all of that. Why? Because, like I said, underserved communities, and also as a patient said, she mentioned that the percentage of people who are, in underserved areas, and if you want to compare the children there to who are receiving, if you want to compare the children in underserved areas or communities to the ones who even have access to this thing, the difference is quite high. We have more students in that areas, but one thing we can agree on is that people get phones these days. You understand? No matter how the phone it may not be something very expensive or something too flashy, but people use Android phones. People use especially I've seen people not have seen, we know people use Android phones that are very affordable and don't need too much maintenance and all of that. And they use these phones and they're able to access other platforms. And so in these communities that are underserved, maybe their parents or somebody they know, even as a volunteer or as a contributor, I go to these communities. I see that even if nobody has, maybe one person there, and by the time one person brings their phone and puts it, everybody is there looking, watching it. Now, when we know that okay, network here is not very good, or Oppia is optimized for that because do you have the Oppia is designed with low compatibility, meaning that it's very very easy to access it even if your network is very bad, even if your I would say the operating system of your phone or the kind of device you're using, especially for the app, it would easily load, it will easily open for you. So yes, at least that is an added advantage, right? It is something, right? And there are still more features rolling out and updates and all of that that will continue to, try to improve, to reach as many people as we can. Thank you very much. Yes. So, like you have said, you mentioned something, and you said that, like you said that there's still more work to be done, right? There's still more work to be done, definitely. And from your point of view, is there anything that you maybe in your work, what you've learned, designing for underserved communities, designing products for underserved communities, and all of that? Is there anything that you've learned? See how Oppia's, I would say, how can Oppia improve its user experience, and also from the point of a product designer, is there anything Oppia can do to improve its user experience in order to reach more learners? Is there anything you have in mind? Can everyone hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I see that you're trying to connect with another device. I don't know why it's not working, but all right. So to round up this session, because I know you both have things to attend to right now. I would just want to ask for the both of you what you think. At least just spoke to Moses now, and I asked him, as a product designer who is used to designing products and trying to make sure the products are, it reaches the user experience standards. Let me put it that way, for lack of a better word, right? It meets the standards. It meets those standards. How can Opia improve? You understand in that aspect. And for patients, for both of you actually, for as a STEM tutor, as a STEM educator, for a platform like Opia, how can Opia do more to support any snippet, any advice, any tips you have for us? And yeah, thank you. Just tell us how you think Opia can do more to remove the barriers the barriers we have to learning, especially in these underserved communities, because that is the focus of our session right now, right? How to improve, how to empower these communities. So how can Opia improve? And because I mean, you've been through the platform, is there anything you think can be done that can be, yes,
Um,
that can be done too?
Yeah, I could pick that first. And apologies if you were asking me a question earlier. I
Okay.
didn't get a thing. So you may have to ask that question again. In
Okay.
terms of what Oppia could do to improve, let me start from what Oppia is doing really well already.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. Okay.
you know, first of all, making sure that the app is available offline is a huge. It's such an important design decision, especially for communities where data is expensive. You know, if you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you can't probably ask someone who is trying to figure out how to eat to probably buy data because they want to learn. So taking away that need to constantly rely on data is something is super important, especially in ensuring that there's continuity of learning, especially for people in underserved communities. Um, Secondly, making sure that it's able to run on low-end devices is also something that is super important for accessibility, especially because in most cases, the kind of devices you find in rural areas are not going to be high-end devices. Okay. In terms of what Oppia could do to improve, um, so first of all, and this is the designer. This is I couldn't. You made mention of something earlier, and this is just the designer in me that has picked this up. Oftentimes, when we're designing whatever kind of experience, in this case, learning experiences, we try to not assume. Um, so it's something we try to catch very early, our assumptions. And you made an assumption earlier that uh, at least you can find one low end device or even Android device or whatever in some of these communities. That may not always be the case. To be fair, you may go to, it's very possible, it's unlikely, but it's possible that you go to a place and you don't find a device that can run the platform. Okay. And if you probably design learning experiences with that in mind, you realize that you're not able to deliver learning everywhere you want to deliver learning. And it's very fine to, I guess, not cater to communities where you can't find those devices. But one thing I think Oppia could do really well is also, I guess, figuring out how you can get at least a device along with your learning platform and materials and resource to these communities. Okay, it can go a long way in opening up communities and people to the amazing content that is on that platform. It could be as easy as, not as easy because it will still be capital intensive when you look at the amount of communities that OPI is serving, but it could be something as simple as being like, oh, so we are, regardless of how many devices we think we can find in this community, we are going to probably make available one low end device that we are sure can run our platform and send it along with our platform or with the instructor or whoever is going to that community. That can go a long way in making sure that the people we are trying to help actually have the facilities sort of to engage our learning resources.
Okay. Thank you very much, Moses, and thank you, Patience. Unfortunately, Patience is currently having connectivity issues, so she had to drop off. But and she's trying to join with her mobile phone, but she's having a little bit of, connect, internet and where we are right now. It's very very unpredictable. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us today, and thank you to Patience as well because right now with everything that we've spoken about, just to recap on what was discussed today, we spoke about why digital literacy is important, especially with the world right now. Digital literacy is an essential skill. There's hardly any any community or anywhere as an adult right now where you want to go to whether it's to work or to learn or to you will definitely meet. You need to have digital literacy. You understand? You will meet challenges, you will meet work, you will meet different things that your digital literacy skills would come to play. So it's yeah. So thank you for also reiterating how Oppia helps underserved communities gain these essential skills with its interactive platform. And yes, because there's this thing is one thing to not know how to, because I know people that I know individuals who don't know necessarily know how to read or write, but they know how to navigate your phone. They know how to navigate their phone. They know how to, okay, I want to watch this. Even if as long as it's there on the device. I know someone personally. As long as it's there on the device, they know how to, okay, if I swipe here, if I move there, if I do this, if I do that, I can be able to access this. I'll find my way to this and start using it immediately. I've taught kids who have never even used computers before, very, people that children that don't really have access to it, but they see me, okay, operate they see me navigate the platform once or twice, and they see them eager, they become eager. When it's time to answer a question in the platform, they say, yeah, I want to try, auntie, I want to try. And they start trying to, touch my phone and tap and tap and tap and tap here, and they know how to go to the next page, they know how to go back. And yeah, so that is how it starts. That's how early these children, our children, let me put it that way, need to start. So thank you very, very much to the both of you, and thank you to our listeners. I was hoping that if our listeners have questions at all, if anyone, they can just quickly drop it on the comment section so I can answer. I don't know if anyone has questions. If not, I would have to end the live. You can also drop your questions in the comment section. I can answer after this session as well under the comments. Because I posted this on LinkedIn as well. I probably have some viewers watching from LinkedIn, and yeah. So in
Also,
the
if anyone, sorry for interrupting you. If
okay,
anyone has a question, particularly for me, also, if I would go through the comment section, and so if you have a question for me, I would also be able to answer you there.
okay, okay. Everyone is saying that. Someone said, "Thank you, Mr. Moses. It's been pretty explanatory." And yeah, so let's just see you hit the nail on the head. You hit the nail on the head. And thank you so much, Chidima. Okay, so okay, Chidima asked me how long I've been in open source. Well, it's Oppia that's another thing again. No, I didn't even know. I mean, I was just living my life as a product manager. I knew about open source, but I didn't really understand the concept of open source. And it was when I started working with Oppia, or as a volunteer and as a contributor, that's when I started to understand. And that's about 7 months ago. That's when I started. And well, here we are. Thank you so much for that question, Chidima. If anyone has questions regarding Oppia as well, questions are welcome. Okay, Chidimibi Easy says this was an amazing session and she enjoyed every bit of it. Thank you so much, Chidimibi. Thank you, David. And this is for you, Mr. Moses. She said your input was very insightful. Thank you. Everyone is thanking you. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And Zainab says digital literacy is the key. Yes, you're right, Zainab. And yes. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And that will be the end of our session. Bye. Thank you, everyone.